It is important to keep in mind as we go through this process, we're not taking everybody's city code and rewriting it totally. There's elements of it that need to be rewritten. I know, like I said, we've identified those specific areas, and there's probably about 4 major sections of our code that we need to really go in. Some of that will need to be major rework. Some of it's just going to be some tweaks to make sure it's consistent with the other sections of the code. So it's not a complete rewrite of city code by any stretch of the imagination. Council could be a little bit sensitive to the fact that it seems like there's a lot of change going on, and it's too much. Please stop the train for me. But I mean, it's like an old proverb. We just need to start taking that elephant one bite at a time and break it up into easily manageable chunks. And I mean, that's the approach we're using here. And we're sending out assignments to various tasks within the city of certain segments of the change that need to occur. And we're across all the spectrum of staff levels, so they're also aware of the other elements that are going on, being changed as far as comp plans, transportation plans, and other the changes. So we'll be able to integrate that efforts into a unified product in the end. It is a huge transition as far as how we've done business. This is not business as normal. It's in fact quite the opposite of the way we've handled stormwater for the last couple hundred years. It's always been get it to the river as quickly as you can. Now we're saying hold on to it as long as you can. So it's a totally different concept, and it requires a totally different approach and a whole different set of tools to do that. My policy at this point from a life cycle cost, because jurisdictions with limited resources now really need to consider, how am I building roads? What are the life cycle costs? When I get into a regular asphalt road, as soon as we put that road, it's going to start aging. And a regular asphalt road, because we're trying to keep the water out of the subgrade, we need to go out and do regular maintenance. So at about year 7, we're going to go out and do a chip seal that road, get it waterproof again, make sure the water isn't leaking. Year 14, might do one more chip seal. Year 21, we're probably going to go out there, grind it down a little bit, put another layer of asphalt down. So we've gone out there and disrupted the public. And I use the example where we're at Costco. This is one of the things I'm looking at in front of Costco. I would have gone out and interrupted traffic in front of Costco 3 times over that course of 21 years. Where if I could put a porous concrete surface down that's going to last 30 to 50 years without maintenance, that initial cost of the concrete is going to be offset dramatically by not going out and do all that routine maintenance. So from a life cycle cost, it's going to be much more beneficial for us to put a concrete pavement down. And quite frankly, actually the initial costs are actually less as well, because on a pervious concrete road on this project is coming up to be $200,000 less to do that than a asphalt road, because I'm not having to buy a commercial properties corner at $16 a square foot to put a stormwater pond in. So that alone is saving me a huge chunk of money on that project. So again, I'm trying to demonstrate it's a cost-effective made to do it. It's good from a life cycle cost, so we're saving scarce city resources. I mean, we know that maintaining local roads is a huge burden on local jurisdictions. Well, if we're going to build roads, let's build them to last. Make them so we don't have to continually maintain them and put money into them year after year after year. So I see that as an opportunity. This is an opportunity to go in and change the way we build roads and actually be more cost effective in how we, are more life cycle efficient in how we build our roads. With our LID program, when we've done rain garden installations, we've actively sought out designers to actually design the rain gardens that maybe didn't do that before. We've gone out and looked for contractors to go in and install these rain gardens so they can learn what installing a rain garden is about. And we've done the same thing. We've got a contractor that now has done 3 streets in the city that are of porous asphalt. He had never done that before. Now he's the LID porous pavement expert, and he's going to market that. That's going to be his thing. And that's what you're looking for, is these people that want to take this and implement it and take it out, and now that's their new niche. And I see a lot of opportunity there for contractors. This change is coming. If you embrace it and learn it, you've got a chance to really explode. I mean, you can go out there and be a growth company by learning this stuff. I think like most jurisdictions, if we look at it, that 2016 adoption date, looks like a long ways out, but when you start breaking down the schedule and breaking into segments and the work that has to be done, it's not a lot of time. In fact, we're probably behind where we should be. We got started fairly seriously 3 or 4 months ago, working with a consultant and starting to develop our plan and our action that's required to get the adoption done. It's going to be daunting to get it all done. We've got a lot of work to do. It's a lot of integrated coordination amongst all of the different staff responsibilities in the city. We have to have planning involved. We have to have the building people involved, stormwater, our development and review services, the fire marshal. All these elements have to be involved. To some degree, some of the other elements will have to be involved as well, as HR and police, and some will have to be involved as well. So it's a comprehensive effort. It requires a lot of staff time and coordination across all the functional lines. Currently in our plan, we're planning on taking the year of 2015 for all the staff work that needs to be done, the code drafting, implementation, the adoption of standards, the stormwater manual adoption, to work towards getting all those products in the state that we can then take it through the public process of getting it through our planning commission, getting it through our council and approved in the council chambers to get our ordinances and adoptions done that way. And many segments of code will have to be changed. We've identified with our plan what segments of our code we will have to change. Some are going to have to change more dramatically than others. The environmental code, stormwater code are obvious ones, but there's a lot of planning code and other sections of the code that will have to be changed and modified as well. And those efforts obviously will have to also be timed with a lot of the other efforts that we have going on within the city. Our overall comprehensive plan update is in process now, as well as our transportation plan, our ADA transition plan, our non-motorized transportation plan. All these things are kind of being done at the same time, so we're trying to coordinate those so that they can come together at a juncture at the same time as much as possible, because we can't be changing code every time we turn around. We've got to have a coordinated effort, make all those work together and get the codes adopted at once, hopefully, and get them all completed. So that gives us a pretty tight timeline to get all those done by June of 2015 or so. These are not voluntary. These are things we have to do, meet our permit requirements, and here's what the workload looks like. And that's probably the hardest part for us to explain is, this is a new requirement. This is our best vision of what we think it's going to be, and this is the workload we think that generates. We've had discussions with budget with the council, basically in the context of we're trying to share with them what the new requirements are that are coming down in the manual. And again, the stormwater private inspection is one. We've had at least one study session with the city council, gone on a broad overview of what the requirements are of private stormwater inspection in the new permit, and made sure they understand that it does have budget implications. We have staff that are going to be required to do this work in order to make sure it happens, make sure we stay in compliance with our permit. And that's what it all comes down to, is all these things are requirements in our NPDES permit. We have to maintain compliance with that. So we've tried to get that in front of the council, let them know, hey, here's a manpower issue that's going to be coming for you. It's a budget issue. You need to be aware it's coming down the line. And there's other issues like that, and the LID adoption is going to be another one, because we're going to have all these diverse and dispersed stormwater systems throughout the city. And again, anytime we have a stormwater system, there's going to be inspections and maintenance that goes with it. Whether it's a pretty rain garden or not, it's still a stormwater system. It needs to be inspected, needs to be functional. So we're going to have responsibilities on maintaining those systems. Getting the message across on the need for staff training to our electeds is going to be a key component. I think they need to be able to understand that it's important for staff to be adequately trained and understand, and to some degree the electeds need to be trained and understand as well, because they need to have a broad understanding of what LID is all about, so they can understand what the changes that their staff is undergoing and that it needs to occur. And there's going to be a lot of time spent. I mean, the staff will need to be taking time off away from their jobs and go get trained and have time to actually adequately absorb this, and that's key to getting this implemented correctly. So I would advise anybody in my position is get that in front of your council as soon as possible. We need to get that message out there. We've got people that don't know how to inspect LID, which is going to be hard to keep high quality installations in the ground if you don't know how to inspect it in the first place. And we're just asking for failure. We need to get those people trained on how to do it. Review staff's going to need a lot of training to get up to speed as well, because now you've just changed the entire paradigm of how they're reviewing plans and how they're looking at how stormwater systems work. And there's a whole lot of new regulation, by the way, that now they've got to learn this new code over here too. So the city of Puyallup, for example, because of the 1 acre exemption we had under the previous permit, we've had very few projects actually come in under the 2005 DOE manual. So we haven't even had a lot of experience under 2005. When we get to the 2012 manual, now we've got a whole nother manual we need to learn. But this time we've no longer got the 1 acre exemption. We're going to have virtually everything that gets built out there will be under the 2012 manual. We'll have to apply to those standards, and we need to have review checklists and ways to review against that manual, and that's a lot of learning. I mean, we're asking staff to really do a lot of change in a short period of time, and that's a challenge for people that are working on the run. Development permits don't stop just because we're having changes of codes and regulations, and quite frankly, the economy is starting to recover. We've done a fairly good job on this side of the state of training consultants and others, designers, how to design these types of facilities and these measures, but the inspection portion of it is pretty weak. And quite frankly, the construction side of the industry on the private side is going to need a lot of instruction as well. But also keep in mind, I mean, it is for a good reason. We're out there trying to improve the water quality of the state, and on this side of the mountains, particularly Puget Sound, and trying to reduce the amount of pollutants that are going into our streams, rivers, and Puget Sound. And LID has been one of those methodologies that has shown a lot of promise. I won't say it's the perfect solution. I know there's a lot of debate, as we discussed earlier, on whether it's going to be the long-term effective solution or not. From my side, I've seen a lot of promise, and if I compare it to standard practices of dense graded pavements and stormwater ponds and water quality treatment devices, I think it has a far greater potential than those. So I think hopefully we'll move along towards adopting these and implementing, and we'll make adjustments along the way as we learn more about them. But I think we need to start implementing them, as they are better solutions. We know they're better solutions now, and we need to implement them. And if we need to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments.